In today's episode, we're tackling a critical issue: burnout in emergency physicians. We'll explore two key pieces of literature. First, an article highlighting the prevalence of burnout among emergency physicians, and second, a book offering practical strategies to prevent burnout and maintain well-being in healthcare professionals.
You ever have those days where you just feel totally, completely wiped? Like just staring at an endless to-do list and feeling totally overwhelmed? Now imagine feeling that way day after day, but the stakes are life or death decisions. That's the reality. For a lot of emergency physicians, they're battling some serious burnout. So in this deep dive, we're going to try to unpack this whole problem of burnout among EPs, and even more importantly, how to actually combat it. We're looking at EP burnout, which doesn't hold back on showing just how tough the job can be. And then for some possible answers, we'll also be getting into preventing burnout in healthcare. And look, if you're in the medical field or you know someone who is, you're going to want to stick around for this. Because let's be real, we all benefit when our healthcare providers are at their best, right? All right. So that first source, EP burnout, it jumps right into it, talking about those brutal 12-hour shifts. But here's the thing that I found surprising. It's not just the crazy hours. It's how much it messes with your body.
You're totally right. Our bodies, they run on this 24-hour clock, right? Circadian rhythms, they call it. And that controls your sleep, your hormones, everything. And 12-hour shifts, those just throw that whole system out of whack.
Yeah, that makes sense. And the source even mentioned how sometimes it's hard to sleep after a hectic shift. Your adrenaline's still going. You're thinking about those intense cases. No wonder you can't sleep.
Yeah, you're still wired, even when it's time to unwind.
Totally. And then on top of all that, you've got the social sacrifices. Weekends, holidays, school plays, all those things become a logistical nightmare with the rigid schedule of an EP.
And you know, the interesting thing is, it's not even just about missing out on the fun stuff. It's the fact that you have almost zero control over your own schedule, right? Plus that constant pressure of knowing you're always on call. The combo is a recipe for burnout.
It's like this weight that never goes away. And the source really lays it out there, what it's like inside the ER. Backlogs of patients, the pressure to make these quick decisions, and often feeling like, I don't know, a cog in the machine, not a respected medical professional. There's even this kind of dark but funny story about doctors and nurses sneaking out for a smoke just to catch their breath for a minute. Shows you how intense it can be.
Absolutely. And that feeling of being alone, like you don't have enough support, that's a big part of burnout. We're social creatures. We need those connections. And when they're strained, it takes its toll.
No doubt. And it's not just about feeling socially isolated either. EP burnout talks about how undervalued a lot of EPs feel within the whole hospital hierarchy.
And that's a really important point. The source points out how the work they do can be seen as uncompensated, their contracts can be terminated pretty easily. It's a tough reality.
For sure. It's like insult to injury when you're already burned out and exhausted. So we're seeing this perfect storm forming here, right? Messed up sleep, social sacrifices, feeling undervalued, constant pressure. It's no wonder burnout is such a problem in emergency medicine. But hey, at least we're starting to understand the why. And the good news is our second source having practical advice for navigating all this.
Yeah, so that's where preventing burnout in healthcare comes in. This one is like, it gives you actual tools to deal with this stuff. And you might be surprised, some of it is really simple.
Well, after all that, some tools sound pretty good right about now, I have to say. So where do we even start?
So the authors of this one, they really focus on remembering your why. That's their first tip right there.
It's like you get so caught up in the day-to-day, you forget why you even wanted to be an EP in the first place, right?
Exactly. It was like that whole thing about the human body just being fascinating to you, or that, you know, wanting to help people when they're at their absolute worst. Just remembering that can be really powerful, I think.
For sure. It's a good reminder that, yeah, the job is tough, but it means something, you know?
Yeah.
You know what else I thought was interesting? This whole thing about hobbies.
Oh, yeah. And it's not like adding another thing to your to-do list, you know? This is about finding things you actually enjoy, things that help you recharge.
And it's not even just about relaxing. The book actually says that having a hobby can actually make you think more clearly, be more creative. It's like a workout for your brain or something.
Well, yeah, when you think about it, I mean, as an EP, your brain is always on, right? Solving problems, making these huge decisions in seconds. A hobby, whatever it is, painting, gardening, playing music, whatever you're into, it lets your brain do something Totally different for a change.
It's like when you finally step away from a puzzle that's driving you crazy, and then you come back and it's like, oh, there it is right in front of me.
Yeah, exactly. And that break, it's even more important for EPs, I think, because the work is just so demanding, you know?
Okay, here's one that at first I was like, how is that going to work? But they talk about vacations in preventing burnout.
I know, right? Like, who has time for vacation when you're working these insane hours and you never know what's going to happen next?
Seriously.
Yeah.
But the book makes a really good point. Even just a few days of disconnecting, it's so important for your mental health, for recovering from all that stress.
It's about making that separation. Like, physically and mentally, you're not in the ER anymore. No charts, no rushing around, no life or death stuff.
Yeah, and the source really emphasizes planning it out. Like, make sure someone's covering your shift, and then actually unplug when you're gone. No checking work emails, no thinking about tough cases.
You got to let yourself be somewhere else entirely, you know? And then when you come back, you're not just more rested. You've got this new perspective on things.
Like hitting the reset button, just like you were saying. You know, it's interesting. Both of these sources talk about how important human connection is. We talked about how isolating the work can be in that first source, EP burnout, and now preventing burnout in healthcare. It's saying that having good relationships, people you can rely on, that's a big part of dealing with that isolation.
Oh, it's huge. Even when you're in the middle of the ER chaos, if you feel like you've got people around you who get it, who understand, it makes all the difference in the world.
It's like you've got this shared language, you know? You don't even have to explain how rough that last case was or how frustrating the administration can be. They just get it.
Exactly. Sometimes you just need someone to listen without judgment, maybe offer a new way to look at things or just a little encouragement, and it can get you through a tough shift, even a tough week.
Absolutely. And the book doesn't just say, hey, have some friends at work. It's about actively making that happen.
Right. It says you have to be proactive, build those relationships with your colleagues, make time for a quick chat in the hallway, grab lunch together when you can, stuff like that.
Because let's be real, when you're dealing with life and death all the time, the stress, the emotional toll, having that support system, it's not just a luxury, it's essential.
It really is. It's about creating this whole culture of support within the hospital, you know, recognizing that even the most experienced doctors, they need someone to lean on sometimes.
We all do, right?
Yeah.
It reminds us that we're all human, we're in this together.
You know, you've really taken us on a journey today with this deep dive. We face some harsh realities about burnout in emergency medicine. It's a job that demands so much. Crazy hours, constant pressure, making these huge decisions, it takes its toll. But we also found some hope, you know, some real strategies for dealing with it all.
We talked about reconnecting with that initial spark, remembering why you wanted to be an EP in the first place.
We talked about how important hobbies are, anything that helps you recharge and use your brain in a different way.
And how vital it is to take breaks, to actually disconnect from work and to build those strong connections with colleagues. Those are so important.
Burnout is a big problem, a systemic problem. It's not just about individual doctors. But by understanding what makes emergency medicine so tough and by using these strategies, you can find ways to make it sustainable. You can find fulfillment in it, even with all the challenges.
It's about finding that balance, right? And so on that note, I'll leave you with this thought. If even the most experienced EPs struggle with burnout, how can we do a better job of preparing new doctors? How can we give them the tools and support they need to really thrive from day one? That's something to think about. And to all you EPs out there, take care of yourselves. You're doing amazing work, and never forget how important you are.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscription button. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below in the comments section.